Welcome back to Chris and Retro. Do you find yourself steered at all by media? Just curious. Um, I think we all, if we're honest with ourselves, we're being steered a little bit. I had a tremendously valuable lesson over the last few days over it just illustrated for me what we should be looking for in journalism and what we should be looking for from those that share information about what's going on in our world. This is not a conspiracy theory thing. It's a matter of truth and facts. I mean, we are wrapped around whatever media agenda is they decide. Now we're going to get one side's bias to draw their people in for money, and then the other side's bias based on their need for money. But it's always going to be around the same issues, whatever it is they've decided to talk about. So recently it's been gun control, gender identity, any egregious behavior around that whole thing comes up. I find it interesting that the more we talk about gun control, the more that we have these, mass shootings and stuff like that. I'm not going to share my opinion. This isn't about my opinion on those subjects. Although if you want to know, I'll tell you. And I do have an opinion on both of those subjects and probably have leaked out some of it as I've talked. But in the media, and I know we talk about this, and so I'm not really illustrating that part as much as any different than what you probably already have known, is that we are being steered. But the thing that I think that we got to wake up to the fact is we're being steered like idiots. Like they're taking basic small pieces of information and steering us. And I tell you, why am I so amped up about this? There was some news story that made me crazy. No, actually, there was news coverage that made me see exactly how things should always be. Now, I'm not in the genre of the motorcycle club community. This is, I guess, if you could categorize this as somewhat of a self-improvement channel, and that specific to addiction and troubled lives that lead to incarceration or just total destruction of your life. How to deal with all that, how to get your life back. That's generally what this channel is all about. But it touches on areas that I happen to like, and I love motorcycles. I touch on some fighting stuff because I love mixed martial arts fighting and boxing. It touches on spirituality things because of my relationship with God and that whole thing. It touches on recovery because of my own journey in recovery. So we touch on a lot of stuff, but I don't fit in some of these genres. But I was commenting about the motorcycle club issues that just happened in Red River, New Mexico, the last two videos I posted, because it was a prime illustration that over a picture, we're willing to change the entire trajectory of many people's lives. And so I reacted based on some early information that came out. Now, some of the stuff that I stated in the first video was slightly different than the second video because you could see the story progressing as we got more information. If I were to make a third video about the same subject right now, I would have more information, and that information probably would be correcting some of my previous information. So it's still over a picture. That still was the issue, and it's still just as egregious. And there was even more details that made it worse, including shooting up an ambulance on the way to taking one of the wounded people to the hospital. So there was all kinds of crazy stuff about that situation. However, here's why I'm talking about that again, and why it is that I'm bringing up the media thing again. Is because Marco's Motorcycle News and Insane Throttle News, those two YouTube channels in collaboration with each other did such an outstanding job of investigative reporting of a situation. They allowed themselves to have the open window to say, this is what we've got so far. More will come in, but they reported it. They brought in people that were witnesses, including one of the victims, and allegedly a perpetrator of something probably in the whole thing. They brought in other channels that have specialty areas. They brought in, and this morning there was on the morning show for Insane Throttle, he brought in somebody that's an expert in Sturgis. But they're bringing in all these actual experts, not experts that are on their payroll, people that actually know what's going on. And they reported based on the facts of the situation that they could find based on firsthand accounts or people knowledgeable of the culture, but not people that were biased towards any feeling they have. Both gentlemen recently announced that they're part of a 1%er and they're of the same club. They have two different channels. They happen to be the same club and they happen to be friends. But it didn't change anything that they reported. None of their own bias and even the own brotherhood that they live for didn't steer any of their story. I mean, you can't get much more personal than something that you're willing to live and die for. And yet that didn't steer their news. They just broadcasted it was, and they allowed it to evolve as more information came in. It's not to suck up to either one of those channels, because in the past, there hasn't always been I haven't always been thrilled with some of the content that's on that. I mean, Marco's motorcycle, I think it's network, is not is fairly new, but he's obviously a professional broadcaster and he handles himself very well. I just felt that in this situation, we saw what real reporting looks like again. And I remembered when we used to do that. We used to find out the truth of tough situations, and it wasn't molded into a case for some other political agenda. It was just told as it is. And as the story progressed, it couldn't really be bucketed into one agenda because there was multiple components going on involved. You could argue probably any side of the whole thing and bolt it into whatever it is that you want to make political in the news. I guess this, in such an egregious situation that was so awful to hear about what happened and so tragic, it was refreshing to see people just trying to find what the truth was and let everybody else know that was curious about it, what was going on, or others impacted about it and what was going on. And boy, have we gone a long ways away from that in the regular media. Check out both those channels. See how they've been covering the story. You'll see what I mean. Maybe we start demanding that of our own, the main media, the main outlets. Maybe we start demanding that of them. And maybe not. How about we just don't even support them? Don't even support them until they start getting back to the grassroots journalism that does some investigative reporting on serious issues and doesn't try to bolt it into whatever agenda it is they're trying to drive revenue based on political favor and whatever else. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in the channel. Thank you we're slowly growing our subscription base. So thank you. Please make sure you like and subscribe. If you like the channel and you like any of the content I've shared, I have a variety of people that are on here, all following the same space, letting people know that no matter how slick you are, your high risk living can lead to collapse. But at the same time, if things fall apart, there's hope. And people like myself can share with you ways to get beyond those stages and actually live to have better days in a life that you find fulfilling. Please, share the channel. See if you've got people out there that'd be interested in that type of content. We have a great guest coming up a week from Monday. I do a pre-show prep for Jen Sugarmeyer. She's a fellow person in recovery. She's also a fellow ambassador with Shatterproof, but she's got a lot more. She's a freelance writer for, I think it's Recovery Magazine. Excuse me, but she's also got a new cosmetic line coming out and all this other stuff. She's a pretty cool person. Be good to have her on, high energy individual, to have her on the show. And I think it's somebody you're going to really enjoy her story and some of the advice she has for those that are listening. But in the meantime, guys, let's start pushing on our media. Let's start demanding truth. And just even if you're not interested in the motorcycle culture or even what happened over the weekend, take a look at those two channels, Insane Throttle and Marco's Motorcycle. Check out those two for sure. They're great channels. They certainly don't need my endorsement. They're much bigger than me. But I want you to see what I mean in terms of illustrating what journalism actually should be looking like. That's how we should be portraying literally all news. So please check those guys out. And between now and the next time we talk, please stay out of trouble.